Welcome. Now, opening this week, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and another incarnation of the cartoon dog Marmaduke. Marvel, once again, not going easy on theater marquees with a long title, and they could end up with something like this. But of course, I think we all know what the actual name of this particular movie is. It's called Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of
Madness, they call it madness.
It's Monday Movie Nonsense. Hey, Paul, that's the same explosion you've shown at the end of the last 3 episodes. Yeah, Adam's not around to swap it out. As you may notice, it's just me flying solo for a bit. He will join us eventually. He is working on location, doing very, very important entertainment business for the masses. So he'll come back and handle that, jumping into the show here in a bit and get us a new intro, hopefully for next week or maybe 2 weeks because he's very busy. But my name is Paul Preston. You may know from the Movie Guys. And if you're familiar with the Movie Guys, it was all there in the opening video. I just realized everything that we've done, crazy podcasts, appearances on the Movie Trivia Schmodown, which have tens of thousands of people watching us play movie trivia, which is fun. And what have we got? Podcasts, reviews, everything you can see at themovieguys.net. Basically, follow us everywhere on social media at the Movie Guys, and you can be just like former president of the United States, Barack Obama.
I'm a movie guy. I can rattle off a bunch of movies.
So you want to be like him. But while Adam isn't here, I still have someone else who's going to grace our presence here. Let me just check some of these wacky openings you have here. Let's see. Often you, yes, and Akiran Lagabiru to everyone. If you've never seen Harrison Ford's beer commercials from Japan, Akiran Lagabiru. It's worth doing. Oh, and thank you so much. Is this the true Schmodown free for all MVP? I don't know, but you freeze framed the show at the wrong time, and it looks like this. Boy, that's not what you want there. So yeah, didn't. Let's get. What am I doing? Get that out of here. All right. So I do have a guest though joining me for the top of show, and it should be fun. So throw any comments, questions you have for this gentleman in the chat, because well, our guest has a big month in May. It's the founder of the Pioneertown International Film Festival, celebrating its inaugural weekend of films, concerts, and parties coming up on May 27th through 29th in Pioneertown, California, a town I can't wait to talk further with all of you people about because it is very cool. It is a California original. And the festival is billed as a 3-day immersion experience celebrating the Western genre, independent cinema, and the American culture of the West, with themed film screenings, master classes, live music, and screenings under the stars that will transport you to the heart of the American frontier. So please welcome the founder of this festival, as I mentioned, Julian T. Pinder. Ta-da!
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
Julian, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Oh, good. You're not run ragged because you're weeks away from an opening of a film festival. You look pretty casual. That seems a little different.
I'm between ragged at this moment, so
Nice. Well, thanks for joining us. I was shocked when I wrote my intro, looking at the website and checking everything out, that this is the inaugural film fest, because I've heard about it for a while, and I imagine that's because you had COVID delays, huh?
yeah, I'd like to think that you'd be hearing about it because it's a great program and everything else. But the reality is that you've been hearing about it for a long time because we decided to launch the festival about a month before whenever that COVID thing happened a couple of years ago, and we very quickly got sort of pushed back into the shell from whence we came, and had to re-envision things and relaunch it this year. So we're really happy to kind of still be here, and a lot of other folks weren't so fortunate to be able to keep going and persevere, but we are very fortunate and very happy to be here.
Yeah, I'll show you. This is some art from the 2021 attempt to have the festival, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or
There you go. Yeah. These are all collectibles now, by the way, folks.
yeah,
So,
that's right. And 22 looks like this. So the Pioneertown International Film Festival.
you got
And
it.
we'll get to what a lot of those things are in the particular art there later in our conversation. But I wanted to leave with a quote by you. This should get you excited to attend this festival because I like this. You can't make great art without finding that delicate balance between being sophisticated and uncivilized. An elegant outlaw is the real artist.
I like
That's
that.
great.
Where'd that come from? Yeah,
That
no,
comes
that's
from
kind of
your
what we.
about page. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was me. That's kind of that sort of encapsulates the whole idea of what this film festival is. I think the most succinct way. I think we really wanted to do something that was really different. It wasn't a sort of traditional film festival where it was just a bunch of screenings and a few different cinemas and no particular theme. I'm a filmmaker first and foremost, and I've directed many different films and television things and whatnot. And so this vision really came about because I've been to so many film festivals, and so many are, there's some fantastic film festivals, and then there are some that are not so fantastic.
Mhm.
And to me, the best ones were always the ones that had some sort of a kind of little bit more of a cohesive theme to them. A bit more of a vision, a bit more of an experiential kind of thing. And a lot of the times, those were the smaller ones. You'd go to the bigger festivals, which are fantastic, like the TIFFs and the Cannes and the sort of larger scale festivals, and they're always a lot of fun, and they always have great films and everything. But the divide between the audience and the filmmakers and the experience of the location that you're in, that kind of gets lost because it's such a large scale thing. So we wanted to try to do something where the filmmakers and the audience were really kind of hanging out hand in hand, and everyone was really engaging in the spirit and the kind of the feeling and whatever it is you'd call it of this town. It's a very unique, very strange, very interesting place with a fantastic history and a checkered future. So that was kind of the vision for it.
Yeah, your quote about balancing sophistication and being uncivilized reminded me of a great Todd Phillips quote. Yes, Todd Phillips of Old School and the Road Trip or whatever. Yeah, by the time he
Yeah.
made Joker, he was having to defend his work by saying things like, "If you want uncomplicated art, you might want to take up calligraphy, but filmmaking will always be a complicated art." And I love that quote. So between being
That's pretty funny.
complicated or uncivilized, I love that whole aspect of being an artist.
Yeah, I think that's the key to it. I've always approached my films that way too. Um, they've never been cut and dried, and I've always had, taken a lot of shit from critics and people watching them and everything. And I always feel like, if I don't get, half the audience, you know, gushing over it and the other half wanting to hang me, I haven't done my job. So
Either way, reaction achieved, right? So
exactly. Yeah, I think
now
you got to push the boundaries with anything you're doing. If you keep doing the same old thing, it's that's great. That works for some people. I think it's fun to try new things and push the boundaries and see what you can do in life.
now let's talk about Pioneertown because you mentioned that it's an interesting town, and it certainly is. I want to actually share something that I went there for the first time last year. My girlfriend's favorite
Oh, you
national
did?
park. I did, yeah, yeah. My girlfriend's favorite national park is Joshua Tree. And so mine's Yosemite so far. We've been to 11. So we have like another 50 to
Wow,
like choose from. But
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
well, the pandemic, they were all during the pandemic actually. Outdoors was open, so it's all we could do, you know. And
That was a nice
our
thing about living on a ranch during the pandemic is life didn't change a whole lot.
yeah, I should mention if you're seeing some like janky internet on Julian T, he walks the walk. Pioneertown is an old west town, and he lives on a horse ranch in Pioneertown. So I'm psyched there's any kind of internet coming out of there.
Yeah, well, let's hope the wind doesn't blow too hard.
So Pioneertown has a deep history in filmmaking, and I'll just show some quick pics because it was created years ago by Roy Rogers, correct? And
That's right. Roy
give us a
Rogers
quick
and
history, but actually before I show my pics to set the context for some photos I took when I was there.
yeah, well, Roy Rogers and his band of merry men came in from Los Angeles, and they were really, there's a lot of really interesting history around here with just the location. If people don't know, we're pretty close to Palm Springs. We're kind of between Palm Springs and Joshua Tree, kind of, if you can envision that. And before there was a town here, it was just, dirt roads. And as far as I knew, Roy Rogers would come out to Palm Springs, hang out with those folks. There's a lot of, kind of the Hollywood elite back in the 30s, 40s, 50s would hang out in Palm Springs. They all had second houses there. It was a bit of like a, when the cat's away, the mice shall play kind of deal. Get out of LA, kind of have a little fun in the middle of nowhere in the desert for these folks. And then, it's my understanding that basically a lot of them, they were shooting films, they were doing Westerns, they were doing television series, and a lot of them, were on back lots in LA studios and in different locations around the city, different Western sets. And they kind of came up with this idea that they, why not build our own kind of little Western set to do all our stuff on, and also at the same time kind of get the studios out of our hair, because they're not going to want to drive 2-3 hours from LA to check up on us all the time. So
Right.
it was kind of a
Get their limo all
was sort of
dusty, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was a really interesting concept. They thought, why not build a Western set out in the middle of nowhere, and kind of keep everyone out of our hair and sort of do whatever we want to do. And I won't get into all the stories because there are a lot of amazing stories, both historically and just with folks, who are pretty old now, but they grew up here and they're still telling great stories of debauchery and a lot of entertaining things. But the long and the short of it is Roy Rogers and a few other folks, some investors and some other filmmakers, basically came out and built this town in 1946. It was founded, so a couple years before that they started. And it was interesting because it's neither a genuine Wild West town, nor is it just a set, which would be a typical sort of facade behind which nothing exists, which is kind of like a backlot deal where they'd shoot your typical Western if it wasn't on location. So it's it's kind of an interesting confluence of like a genuine thing and a bullshit thing, if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's always interesting. I find it really, really interesting because it's a genuine lived-in set, which is kind of unique. I don't really know anywhere else where that's the case. But all these folks, the cast and the crew of the films that were being made out here, more often than not, would actually live in the places where they were shooting. So, behind the facades, behind the sound stage, behind all these great places, you'd actually have, a building where people would live in. There's functioning washrooms and kitchens and bedrooms and everything. So it's really cool in that sense. It's like, it's not real, but it is real. So there's an element of the genuine, non-genuine kind of thing going on there. And Pioneertown kind of, when Westerns started to fall out of fashion, starting in the 60s and into the 70s, and then, further on in, Pioneertown kind of became abandoned. The studios stopped shooting there. The Gene Autry show that shot in the soundstage in town, which is actually one of our cinemas, which is really cool history. They stopped shooting there for the most part, and the town kind of became, not completely a ghost town, but very much just like a bunch of hippies and stragglers sort of moved in, which I thought was really cool too. And then
Joshua Tree.
it was kind of like that. Yeah, exactly. And it was kind of like that until pretty recently when it saw a resurgence in interest. When I moved out here, I guess 11 or 12 years ago now, it was a very different place. It was still, there was a few things going on, but still most of the buildings were empty, and there was a lot of very interesting, great characters kind of living behind the old facades. And that's kind of what I fell in love with. I came out here because I really fell in love with that area and the town itself and the history of it. Such a rich history. That's changed a lot in the last few years, but it's also brought about a new resurgence of interest in the town and in the history, which I think is a real positive thing. People are starting to see it for what it was, and the market left on, the Western genre. And I think our crazy idea to launch a film festival in this middle of nowhere place with no actual cinemas was really born of that resurgence of interest. We wanted to say, hey, like all these new folks coming to town, welcome to town, and this is what it is, and this is the history of it. And here's a film festival that really aims to celebrate what this place was and why it exists and who was here and what it created. For a place in the middle of nowhere with relatively few people living here, it's really made a huge mark on globally, really on the global consciousness and the global myth of the Western. It's amazing to see people show up here from, France or Romania or Japan or wherever, looking around going, oh, shit, I remember that building in the, back of that show that, whatever I saw when I was a kid. And I remember this landscape from here. And you're like, oh man, this is really, really neat. It's a really neat place. So
And
that's where that came from.
And they shot hundreds of films in a relatively short amount of time back in the day. And they still continue to shoot. One poster I remember when I went to the film museum in Pioneertown was Ingrid Goes West. I believe it was shot there, if I'm not mistaken. So they're still shooting there. But back in the day,
they're still shooting things, yeah.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was like a studio. It was like a studio backlot, basically. Back in the day, they were just firing things out. The Genealogy show was being shot, regularly out in the sound stage here, and Annie Oakley, and a whole bunch of different things are being shot here, like studio pace, like you said. They had a crew who was here, they had a system set up, they had everything ready to go as if it were a studio backlot, which is pretty amazing because just trying to put on a small film festival takes a hell of a lot of work. I couldn't imagine shooting studio films out here. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I can.
But when they realized there was no water, it became a different kind of thing. It was they had plans for golf courses and resorts and subdivisions and the big Pioneertown dream. And then someone alerted them to the fact that there was no water here, and then everyone kind of slowly left and became what it is now.
Yeah, there's one. We'll get to some of the films on the schedule here in a bit, but I do want to. I'll jump ahead to mention a film called The Mystery of Durango. If I'm not mistaken, it's a documentary about the Durango kid, right? Who shot, and here's an example: 70 films in 7 years.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah,
yeah, and I've seen none of them, and that's what I feel horrible when I go to visit these places. I'm like, how have I never seen a Tom Mix movie? The guy made like 1,000 movies. I need to get I need to get my history of movies more correct, I think.
It's hard to keep up. I mean, there's every year more keep getting made, and yet as you're catching up, more films are being made. So it's hard. And it's hard too for me. I'm a weird, I go through phases where I just don't watch films for many, many, many months. I don't see a single screen. Sometimes that helps me to envision a new film, because it kind of keeps me out of the movie world. But like you say, it's there's just so many. It's amazing. I've just been trying to kind of catch up on the Western genre a little bit more, even though it's something that's influenced me in my work. But, I've just been trying to go back and go, oh my God, all these films that we're now playing, or like you said, the Mystery of Durango or whatever, they've got connections to these other films. And, the Western genre is so deep and it's so rich, and it's so much more complex than a lot of people give it credit. And I'm still I by no means consider myself a Western expert by any means at all. I'm just a huge fan of the genre, and I'm trying to learn more and more as I go along, and also at the same time, live my life and ride my horse and not be glued to a screen the whole time as well. So it's a delicate balance.
So I'll show you some pics I took when I was out there. So I went to Joshua Tree in 2020 and kind of just went to the national park. That was, one to see the stars at night with nothing around anywhere. And you can see all of them. And hiked the cactus garden, went out to the dam, looked at the cave paintings, walked around, climbed rocks, had a great time. Went back a second time. And that's when we decided to check out the neighboring areas, Desert Christ Park, which, if you don't know what that is like these
Amazing.
crazy 15-foot statues of Jesus throughout his entire New Testament
It's
storyline
it's
on
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, on a mountainside. It's crazy. And then,
Yeah.
the Purefoy Art Museum, which is basically
Yeah.
just a bunch of junk artfully set in his lawn. And it's like
Yeah.
this amazing thing.
It's a very colorful area out here.
Indeed. There's a beauty, salon museum, there's a
Yeah.
crochet museum, and all sorts of cool
Uh-huh.
stuff, and then just about 30 minutes north is Pioneertown, so I wanted to walk around on an old West movie set, so I did, and here's an example of, oh, what is this? I don't
Oh
have
yeah.
it
There you go.
labeled. That is
That
the,
would be that's the old church.
oh, okay, the old
Yeah,
church.
which actually still has sermons now and again.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. The bar is operating, there are plenty of artists
Yeah.
there who sell
That
things, and, there's a
that's
lot
the
of
cool thing
working.
about what's happening now. You know that when I first moved, a lot of these places were just kind of empty, and there were some people living behind them or whatever. But it's kind of cool. There's pros and cons to everything, and progress definitely leaves its mark. But it is nice to see that like everything's being filled out and used and repurposed, and it's the town is really becoming more vibrant than it was before. And take it or leave it, but it's a cool thing, I think.
And this is the saddlery. And by the way, this area in front of the saddlery is horses only, right? Like
That's right.
you're not bringing a car down this street.
No, no,
Walk or literally
hitching
hoof
hooves or souls only. No,
it. Yeah.
no wheels.
And the bank and the hotel that are downtown there. I mean, this is
Yeah,
old school, old West type stuff, and it's really cool. And then my favorite part, of course, being a movie guy, was the film museum, which you can go in and look around at posters and photos of them shooting in the
yeah, and
town. Yeah.
that's a really cool museum that we have been really trying to build and develop over the years. There's a great group called the Friends of Pioneertown, which is a nonprofit group, um, and they're really hugely involved in trying to gather as many artifacts and archives that have to do with Pioneertown, and doing some really cool stuff, including the little museum, which is a fun little saloon kind of thing. I love that space.
Yeah, and you can just wander in, right? So it's like
Yeah,
it's free. I mean, I think they got donations they'll gladly take to keep it going, but
yeah,
much of
yeah.
this you can just pull up and wander in and be sure to eat at, what's the bar called? Fanny? No, it's not Fanny.
There's a Pappy and
Pappy's.
Harriet's, and
Pappy
there's
and
the Red
Harris.
Dog that just opened, the old Red Dog Saloon, which is a very cool place too. Yeah, we're slowly becoming, a town with
And
places to actually
well, I
eat and do
mean,
things.
Pappy and Harriet's has now national acclaim. Once Paul McCartney, of all people, popped in there to do a concert, and the place went berserk, and it made national attention. And now, is it since him or even before him were big names coming in? Because now it seems like you get
Oh
Lord.
no,
You
they were. It was always under the radar.
get,
It was a real iconic place back in the day because even before it was, a real trendy kind of, very well known place. There was a huge culture of amazing musicians who either lived or had places out here in the desert. And you'd go in sometimes on a random night. This was obviously wasn't every week, but you go in on a random night and you'd see, Robert Plant would step up on the stage, and
oh,
just
that's cool.
jam. Lucinda Williams would go by. The names of people who had come through there, just the legends of rock and country, were amazing. And they did that mainly because it was such a great vibe and it was so under the radar. That's definitely changed now, but they're still pulling a lot of big names out there. I think Pioneertown really grew from that as well because um, Pappy's was kind of the leftover element of what Pioneertown was before. It used to be like I think it was a garage at some point, and then it was a bar, and it never quite died. Even throughout the '70s, it was kind of a weird biker bar. So that was kind of like the thread that kept the town somewhat alive, and it's still there today. So, and it's nice to see. But the old Red Dog Saloon was the original saloon from the '40s, where the guys would ride their horses inside there, and these amazing black and white photos of Roy Rogers and all these folks, with their horses and Trigger and stuff, and like riding up into in a bar. Pretty amazing.
Going into the
So
bar with their horse. That's awesome.
What's that?
They go into the bar with their horse. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, there's great pictures of like some of these actors on their horses, getting a drink at the bar. I don't believe they allow that any longer.
Probably
But
not. No.
it's a different world. But the
Here's you
spirit is
on your
still
horse.
alive in Pioneertown. There you go. Yeah,
That's
that's
just
sadly
again.
we had to put that guy down last year. Unfortunately, he was my
Yeah.
my good trail horse. But yeah,
But again, you're no joke. It's not like I want to go in there and make a fest there. Like you've brought the fest from the inside. You live there and you love the place, and I think that's really cool. But what is the first step to making it happen? You say you want to do it, and then you need money, you
uh,
need
I,
names, you
I mean, it's
need
just
films. How's it work?
yeah. You need bathrooms. You need screening rooms. You need places for people to get out of the sun. You need places for people to get a drink. And it's the challenge of it is enormous. It's just like it's not like a typical small town film festival where maybe you've got a theater or two in town and you've got a couple whatever spaces you can kind of rent around there, and then suddenly you've got yourself a film festival. Obviously there's a huge amount of work in programming and everything else. I'm not putting any of that down, but just to physically get a structure of what the hell are we going to do here, that was a 2-year process. How do we make an original soundstage like the one we're using now, where Gene Autry used to shoot his show? How do we make that into a industry standard high quality screening area? How do you get a Christie projector on the trusses of a barn, and make sure you're offering an amazing high quality screening experience with some fantastic films, some world premieres of the highest quality? And how do you do that in a place where just nothing exists to support that? So literally everything we needed to do had to be created from nothing, from the dust on up, literally, is what we say. And so yeah, it was a huge challenge. And then once all that was kind of thought out, and okay, how the hell do we make that work, and how do we physically have a film festival in this town, and keep it really small, keep it from becoming this big crazy thing? And then from there, how do we then how do we have a Western film festival? Is that even possible? That was kind of the first conversation that Todd and I had. Todd, our head programmer, after all this crazy challenge of trying to make sure we could actually do a film festival and get a permit to do it with the county and figure out all the physicality of it. Then it was like, all right, we can do this. This is great. Big sigh of relief. And then, oh shit, we've got to figure out if we can do a Western film festival. Are there enough Western films being produced? Contemporary? We don't just want to have like and I mean, this is great too. I'd love this, but we didn't just want to focus on just classics and kind of, a more hokey sort of shoot 'em up, cartoony kind of, film fest thing. We wanted to figure out how to make a really world-class film festival out of this, and have a curated program that really dove deep into the complexity of the Westerns and the diversity of the Westerns and the checkered history of the Westerns and the future of the Western and what this all means and where it's going and how it's evolved and who's involved in it now. So that was a huge conversation we had when I first called up Todd. And Todd had programmed at Sundance before and a bunch of other great festivals. And we had a call. I remember it being many hours long, and I think there might have been some whiskey involved. And the conversation was basically, is it possible to do a Western only film festival and not have it just be, screening old classics? And we didn't know, and it took us about a year or so to answer that question. And I think we have that answer now because Todd's come up with this amazingly curated program of world premieres. We've got multiple world premieres of Westerns. Who knew that many Westerns were being produced every year now? And we've got a lineup of special presentations of anniversary screenings, like From Dusk Till Dawn and Five Goes West, which is amazing. It's like
Yeah.
that tends to be everyone's favorite thing on the program. It's like, we've got these Ukrainian Westerns that were screening with the director presenting them, who's now exiled from the war, and like these amazingly, touching, powerful stories. And everyone's really excited about them. But the hilarious thing is, everyone I talk to is always like, "I can't wait to see Fava Goes West and see Phil Nibelink, the director, get up and talk about that," because everyone saw it as a kid. So, but on
Well,
top of that, obviously we've got, like, the Jack Nicholson and Monty Hellman westerns, the
well,
old acid
let's hold
westerns
off
in
on
the
that.
'60s.
Let's
Okay,
hold on for just a sec, because Adam's a few
sure.
minutes away from joining us, and when he gets
Okay,
here, we'll do a quick rundown on the schedule. Because yeah, you
sure.
mentioned a few things that are pretty cool, and there's more after that. Um, but yeah, and there are. Did you see The Harder They Fall
I
on that
haven't
deal?
seen that yet. I didn't have
Oh,
internet for a little while, so I'm a little bit
check it
behind on
out,
that.
man. That's one of the best westerns of last year for sure. I mean,
I know,
probably
man.
my favorite.
It's
James
on the top of my
Samuel,
list.
the director.
Yeah.
You talk about, like, the good and the bad of the western genre throughout the years, and he looked at it and said, "There's no representation for black people." And
Mhm.
I saw that film with a Q&A with him, and he said something I loved, and I still quote. He's like, "I don't critique, I create." So he made a black
Right.
western. He
Oh, that's
just, like,
cool.
he just did
That's
it, and
great.
so
I love that attitude, man. That's
yeah,
such a great attitude.
and what
Yeah,
a
we are
cast.
actually playing Buck and the Preacher, which is a fantastic western with African American representation from decades ago, and it's kind of being revisited now, and it's a fantastic film. It's like Harry Belafonte, and it's obviously Cindy Poitier. That's going to be a really cool screening.
What is
Because I'm
the what
trying to
is
find some folks who are still around from that film to bring out to talk about it, because I think it's a really important film. And, one of our partners, the Autry Museum of the American West, are presenting a couple of things at the festival. They had a great screening with Buck and the Preacher, and they're also trying to revisit that kind of, the history of representation in westerns, and it's a really challenging subject, but I think we've always thought of it as like the best way to do it is just to hit it head on. We want to celebrate the western genre out here and the history of the town and everything. And there's a lot of dark patches in that, and there's a lot of racial issues with that. And we always approached it from the beginning, saying, look, let's just hit it head on, not try to hide from anything, not try to sweep anything in the carpet, and invite whoever we can, and really have a strong indigenous presence, and open the festival up with this great film, The Last Manhunt, which is a kind of an indigenous revisiting of the Willie Boy story, and really celebrate everything, but also tackle the challenges that come with it in a way that everyone can kind of be involved in, and think about.
I hear someone watching says horror western is a good category too. Love The Burrowers and Bone Tomahawk. I don't know The
Oh, Bone
Burrowers.
Tomahawk is great. Yeah.
Bone Tomahawk is
The
just
Brewers. Bone Tomahawk is a great film.
uncomfortable. That
Yeah, that's
movie's
a great category, and that's actually
uncomfortable.
something we might do next year. So that's a good comment, Alan, if I'm reading your name properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, horror western is something that we wanted to kind of do. I mean, we had enough ideas and themes for this year, but I think the horror western might be something we focus on next year as well.
You touch on it a little with From Dusk Till Dawn, but that movie's more
Yeah,
fun than anything else.
yeah,
There-
absolutely.
there's-
Yeah.
hey, look who it is! It's my co-host. What's Adam with?
Hey,
Hey,
Adam,
how's
how
it
you doing?
going? Hello from lovely Las Vegas. Hello from the craft services cart. Hold on a second here.
Did you bring some for everybody?
Oh, I didn't.
I'd
Is
like
that
some of those.
rude?
Sorry, Julian, we don't provide for the guests any craft
Hi,
service.
Julian.
How you doing? Nice to meet you. What are you
Thanks
doing in
for
Las
nice
Vegas?
to meet you. Thanks for holding the show down here.
Well, we were just going to discuss the schedule. We talked about the Pioneertown Festival and the history of that place. And again, if you want to find out more about Pioneertown, visit. So it's that simple. Plus, there's a panel, I think, at the festival which goes into the history of the town. And anyway, we talked about all that, how to get it started and all this. But now I want to talk about what's on the schedule for this festival.
Oh, fun.
Sure.
Got here just in time.
Yeah. We talked about throwback movies. They're going to show From Dusk Till Dawn, but leaving we didn't talk yet on who's going to be in attendance for that, which is Robert Kurtzman, who did a lot of the visual effects for that movie.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a special chat with him as well, a whole panel with just Robert?
Yeah, Robert's going to be out to present From Dusk Till Dawn, and he's going to give a talk and kind of discuss the genre in general, but also give us a lot of insight into the actual production, how it came to be, and his involvement as one of the creators and the storytellers. Have you guys met Robert before? Have you ever had him on or anything? Or
No.
No,
really interesting guy.
but man, he's been Evil Dead 2 special effects, and he worked on
Yeah, oh yeah,
From
he's
Dusk Till
But
Dawn.
kind of pioneered the return to physical effects after all the like high digital era. He was still so committed to that, and that's what's been fun is like the people that are and like the Creep Show, him doing the Creep Show with like all practical effects and everything. It's just so like
Yeah.
for people that really when CG like super took over and became this like way for people to shortcut doing that sort of stuff. They doubled down on that, and it's just so great. He's like a pioneer of like a second era of physical effects.
Yeah.
What a legend!
and he's really he's really creating almost like another character within a lot of these films, because like you said, if they were just a lot of the CG digital stuff, it becomes so generic that it just kind of gets
Yeah.
lost in the background. And I think a lot of times, unless it's really necessary, obviously, it detracts oftentimes from the story, I find, if it's over the top. But what Robert's doing, and what some of these people who are kind of, like you said, re-pioneering the physical effects, it's really bringing back like another side to these stories, and it's really bringing in a new character that I think got lost when CG came in. And a lot of us forgot about that. And I think, when you, at least for myself, when I watch a film nowadays that's got more physical effects, I'm actually quite just engaged, just simply based on that. And I don't know if that's just because I'm kind of a film nerd and a filmmaker myself, and kind of get bored with too many digital things. But I see that and I go, shit, this is, whether or not I love the film, I really respect the fact that they're doing things this way.
And kind of a fun independent film story is that I believe Kurtzman he either had that he provided the effects, I believe, for Reservoir Dogs in return for Quentin writing the full screenplay of maybe a story idea he had. So it's just one of those fun independent film things too. Yeah. Yeah, the ear effect. You're cutting the ear effect off in Reservoir Dogs. I believe Kurtzman provided that if Quentin would do a draft of the Dusk Till Dawn script, which might have been story by Kurtzman, I believe.
I think you're right.
Jeez,
And that's like
we both
classic
got a pretty good
independent.
deal out of that, I think. Yeah, that's funny.
Texas
Yeah, I'm
independence.
gonna ask him about that. That's a great story.
There you
Yeah.
go. Find
That's
out
funny 'cause,
more
yeah,
at the
there's
panel.
Yeah, come and ask. Come in person and ask Robert. It's funny. There's a lot of like Tarantino tie-ins with the little festival here between Robert, who obviously had a lot to do with Tarantino back in the day, between Dusk Till Dawn, Reservoir Dogs, and everything. And then obviously also our Monty Hellman program. Tarantino was hugely influenced by Monty Hellman. And,
Two-Lane Blacktop, is that Monty Hellman?
Two-Lane Blacktop was his famous one. We're showing his old acid westerns from the '60s. He did with a small unknown actor back then whose name was Jack Nicholson. Yeah.
Oh, is that Missouri Breaks? What's the acid western?
No, it's Ride the Whirlwind and The Shooting.
Oh, Ride the Whirlwind, yeah.
Yeah. And The Shooting,
Cockfighter,
and
is that him too?
is that him?
Cockfighter?
Yeah. I want to look
Never
this
heard
up.
of
Hold on a second.
I was going to ask you actually. If Monty
Warren
Hellman
Oates.
was ever represented at the New Beverly Cinema, where
Yeah, Monty Hellman.
programs if his stuff is played there or not. But yeah, you'll
I'm
show
sure
those
it
two
has been.
films, and Melissa Hellman, I guess his daughter, and then Jennifer Nicholson, Jack's daughter, will both be there to present the films, and they both also live in Pioneertown. Is that correct?
Yeah, man. Everyone lives out here.
Ah.
Everyone lives out here. It's
Sorry, I missed the
hilarious,
beginning of the show. Where is Pioneertown located?
It's if you draw a line from Palm Springs to Joshua Tree, we're kind of somewhere in the middle there.
Okay.
And then
All right,
you
cool.
go up, you take that middle and then go up a little bit further towards Big Bear by about 10 minutes, and that's kind of where Pioneertown is. I found it because I was looking at a map one day on a road trip back when I first came here. So everyone always finds it in different ways. It's a little easier to find now because it's been written about in every publication on earth, and Paul McCartney played here and everything else. But back in the day when you had a physical map, that's how I found it, just driving around California and saw this weird what the hell is Pioneertown?
Pioneertown.
A little dot on the map. And then I drove up there and I said, holy shit, what is this place?
You're like, please be a themed town. I want to move to a themed town.
You are
I
not
love
in-
themes,
You
Tim.
are not wrong.
Ooh.
Adam. This is
Very themed. Whoa. Oh my God.
We won't give you too much information, Adam. You'll have to listen to the beginning of this podcast to get the
Okay.
yeah. They shot hundreds of westerns there, and so
Okay, I'll check back.
and so then we're also going to have Five Goes West, as you mentioned. We'll show there Heartworn Highways.
Yeah.
I actually don't know this
Was
movie.
Five Goes West shot in Pioneertown? I'm sorry, I'm coming in late.
It wasn't, but Phil Nippelink, the director of Five, is coming out to present the 30th anniversary screening of it.
Oh, wow.
So he's going to talk all about how Five came to be and the production of that film.
Oh.
There's a lot of really fun stuff here. Like, the only reason I'm doing this is because I want to be and check out the festival. You know? I don't have the time or the energy to do this. I want to see it so badly.
Not enough people go west in sequels nowadays, I just want to say. They don't go to space enough and they don't go west enough.
Just Five and Ingrid. Yeah.
Five and Ingrid, that's it.
That's funny.
Okay, but
What else?
will
What
be
did you
a
mention there, Paul? You mentioned something.
Heartworn Highways, which I don't
Heartworn
know.
Highways.
Apparently, there was a Heartworn
Oh.
Highways revisited sequel, and these are documentaries about country singers, correct?
You got to see these films; they're amazing. Heartworn Highways is a real classic, a cult classic, obviously. But it was shot in, I want to say 78, 79. I think it came out in 80. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the case. The producer who had a lot to do with that film, Graham Leader, is coming out to the festival to present both films, Heartworn Highways and Heartworn Highways Revisited. And he's got some amazing stories because I mean all the old classic outlaw country guys were involved in that. He turned the world on to like, I mean, obviously these guys were known in country circles, but like Steve Earle and particularly Townes Van Sant, he turned on a lot of the
Charlie
world
Daniels.
to these guys. These guys were a product that their cultural, the popular cultural love of like towns and stuff. A lot of that came from Heartworn Highways. And there's a classic scene in that film which is amazing. If you don't even watch the whole film, if you just go to, I'm sure it's on YouTube or something, but you've seen it in different films and whatnot. But Townes is just playing on the porch of this shack, playing one of his songs to the camera, and one of his best buddies, an old black gentleman behind him, is just sitting there listening to this song, and he's just in tears listening to Townes play. And it's just the most amazing, powerful scene, but the film's full of stuff like that. It's just like in everyone's living rooms, hanging out with these amazing, classic country
legends.
Guys. Yeah. So to see that
David
on
Allen
the big
Coe,
screen,
Charlie Daniels.
yeah, all these guys, and a lot of these guys, they're hugely popular now. Obviously, everyone knows their names, but a lot of them back then didn't become hugely popular until a lot of people saw this film, especially in like Europe and stuff like that.
Wow.
So to see this on the big screen, I'm not even sure when the last time it is that this film's been screened in all its glory.
First I've heard of it.
Yeah, and then to have Graham there, who was who produced both the original and the second version back in, I think it was 2015 maybe or something, I don't know. But to have him talk about this and his connection to all these absolute legends of classic country music, and it's going to be really exciting to see that.
Well, I can't believe I haven't seen this because my shirt has got Lyle Lovett and his large band.
Oh, there you go.
I've seen Steve Earle. I've seen Lyle cover these great town songs. I go to this thing called the Kayamo Cruise. It's all singer-songwriters: Lyle, John
nice.
Prine, Lucinda,
Oh, man.
Jeff Moe.
You got it.
Wainwright, Buddy.
The second you get off this podcast, you got to go home or if you are home, you got to go to your screening room and watch Heartworn Highway, man. I'm telling you, it's
I'm not there. Yeah, one of the
it's
other.
amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so then we also have short films. A bunch of filmmakers represented by shorts. So what's your process for screening shorts? You talk about film festivals that are janky. My buddy Paul Osborne, who's been a guest on this show many times, made a film, maybe you've seen it, called Official Rejection. It's a documentary about film festivals, and he shows
I've heard of that.
Yeah, he shows the good and the bad, which people take your money, don't watch your movie, and you don't get in it, or the fest never happens, or all these different things. So what are the perks and things filmmakers need to know to submit for future Pioneertown Film Fest?
Well, first of all, it's, a lot of this year was more kind of curation And obviously Todd having programmed at Sundance and Cine Vegas, actually, where you are now, a whole bunch of great film festivals. Between me and him, like I said before, my past is, or hopefully my future too, is a filmmaker. I've made a lot of films and been in a lot of film festivals. So between Todd and I, a lot of the initial work was very personal. It was like contacting friends who are programmers in different film festivals. A lot of back channeling, and I won't name specific film festivals, but we really worked very closely with a lot of people who were very intimate with some fantastic film festivals globally. And basically we were saying to them, hey, I've got this crazy idea to do this Western film festival in the middle of nowhere in this small town. You got any Westerns for us?
Yeah.
Because when you think of it, a lot of film festivals, they take so few films and they get so many submissions. I mean, I heard like Sundance gets like hundreds of thousands of submissions or something. Maybe that's an overreach, but definitely in the tens of thousands, if not more, of submissions. And there's so many films that are amazing that aren't actually being programmed because it just physically can't. So there's a lot of stuff being kind of, I don't want to say discarded, but left to the side, that are really quality films that are kind of getting missed out on. So our kind of initial approach was like, hey, let's be like the dogs in the gutter and just start tearing apart the garbage and seeing if we can find any meat in here. And we certainly did.
The numbers play in your favor, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we found some amazing things. A lot of insiders and a lot of our friends at different film festivals who were programmers and stuff said, hey, like this amazing Western came through our door, for this year's film festival, and it was fantastic, but we weren't able to program it. We didn't have a section for it. So we jump on it and call the filmmaker and go, hey, do you want a place to premiere, or do you want to screen at this great little festival? And a lot of times it was a hard sell because we hadn't done this before, and what the hell were we doing? But I think having the pedigree that Todd has, and me being a filmmaker, having the kind of personal connection to a lot of these films, it convinced a lot of people who otherwise I don't think would have been interested in putting their film into a small unknown first year film festival. And that's kind of how we started to get this program together piece by piece. And then we had an open invitation to submissions, and we don't charge for submissions. We're not trying to make money off of this or anything. It was an open submission. But
filmmakers don't have the money, so that's awesome.
Well, I don't.
I'll
be knocking on your door for a place to live soon too. So. But it was very much just like an open kind of, hey, if you made a great film, or you have a Western, or you're doing something or whatever, let us know. And Todd, bless his heart, spent many hours watching a lot of different films. And he personally curated our shorts program, which is really a cool program. A lot of premieres of some great shorts there, and a lot of the filmmakers are going to be in attendance. And he's got 2 themed shorts nights. One's called Buscaderos, which is the theme of like short filmmakers exploring seekers, ramblers, kind of on the road in the West sort of style.
Buscaderos, that's a great word.
Buscaderos. The other one is Bandits, where it's like, the theme of sort of scoundrels and swindlers and thieves and stuff like that. So they're 2 really fun kind of Western themes, and Todd's kind of curated 2 great programs based on that. And like I said, a lot of them are world premieres, and there's some really cool films in there. I'm really looking forward to that, actually.
Well, now that I know about this festival, next year look for The Evil I've Seen crossing your submission box. My buddies and I made a Western a few years ago, so I got to see that next year.
Well made a Western.
Absolutely. I love that. That's
my buddy has his dad has an avocado ranch out in Simi Valley. So it's a 1 location Western. We shot it in the middle of his corral, built a fire, and the whole thing takes place around this fire. You'd think that would be easy, but fire is not something. If you pick one thing to have in your movie, they say kids and animals, also a fire. It's good continuity and like the smoke moving around and everything. Pain in the ass. But
it's funny because you always look at Westerns like that. It's like the untrained eye would look at a Western and go, man, this must be a simple thing to do. You got, the smaller ones, obviously, not the big ones, but, you got a few horses, you're in the middle of nowhere, and you got a campfire, and that's a pretty easy thing. And then when you're a filmmaker, like you just said, you realize, like, oh, shit, 1 damn horse and one fire. And in the middle of nowhere means you have no power and no water and no resources and no place where to take it down. It's really funny how the simplest things actually become a lot of the times the most complex things.
Yep.
That's why Monty Python went with coconuts instead of horses. It was going to be a gigantic hassle, expensive hassle. And they're like, what if we just bang coconuts together? And they're like, all right, we'll make a joke out of that.
That is hilarious. I love that.
Let's talk about
that was kind of like, sorry, go ahead there, Paul.
No, continue that thought.
I was just going to kind of tie it back to like the Monty Hellman, Jack Nicholson films
That's awesome.
screening, because they were very much like, man, they did Monty shot those on a nothing budget. He just had amazing actors. Like the shooting, was Warren Oates, Jack Nicholson, and Millie Perkins, and there was a couple other actors in there I should know the names of, but it was basically like a cast of like you could count them all on one hand, and a few horses, and it's just a strange, beautiful film.
Yeah,
and it's cool because very sadly Monty passed away, recently. And he was supposed to come. Monty's coming himself to present these things at the festival, and it was really sad because we were so excited about that. And then when COVID hit, sadly he passed away that year, so we missed out on the opportunity to have him. But his daughter Melissa's presenting his films along with, like you said, Jack Nicholson's daughter Jennifer Nicholson, both in their own right. A very good director and actor in their own right, and they're going to tell us some great stories because they were kids. And this was back when these weren't big film sets. Jennifer and Melissa, could you imagine them? They were little kids back then on the set of oh, my dad's Jack Nicholson and my dad's Monty Hellman, and we're little kids playing, and they're making this weird, psychological Western on a shoestring budget. I mean, there's some stories there, so that's going to be a lot of fun to hear as well.
That's awesome.
And Monty painstakingly recreated these films too. He restored and remastered both of these films, which I'm so happy he did before he passed away a number of years ago, because the prints were really terrible. If you've ever seen these films or any of your audience had, it was really hard to get through them because they were terrible, terrible prints that were out there. And just very recently, he worked in partnership with the Criterion Collection.
Oh, wow.
And restored both films, so they're beautiful now. So we're screening these gorgeous restored Criterion prints.
I've probably never seen those versions of any of Monty Hellman's films. My time watching Monty Hellman was definitely before any restoration, and they were gritty. It fits the tone of a lot of those movies too, is the grittiness, but they're meant to be much more beautiful than that. Yeah,
they're really beautiful. I mean, I actually just rewatched the shooting recently, which is it's much easier to see now. I think it's whatever on Amazon or whatever streaming things, and it looks beautiful. Crazy. I mean, I hadn't seen the restored version of it. I saw the original one many years ago, and I wanted just to revisit it, and I watched it, and man, the photography is beautiful. It's really, and you catch so much too. Obviously, there's a great feeling in a shitty print, but when you see a nice one, you also realize how much you're missing. How much minutiae the director and the cinematographer put into every little thing, and that tends to get lost when you're watching something that's been terribly copied.
Wow. But
and this also brings me to one more really cool thing that just came to mind too. Speaking of restoration, the Paramount, some folks from Paramount from the restoration division are going to be bringing out a couple of classics from their library that they've just recently restored that haven't been seen yet, and they're going to give a whole presentation on how they restore these films from the original masters. And they're bringing out the original films and the restored ones and the process and all these props and stuff, and that's going to be tons of fun, because when I visited them at the Paramount studio in the archive division, my God, man, it looks like a studio in and of itself, just the restoration division. They've got, they bring in original reels from the Cinematheque in France, from private collections, from UCLA. They literally scour the world for every single, print along with the master original 35. They go through them meticulously frame by frame. They pick out the best frame from each print they have. They go back to the master. They put it back together. They recolor it according to the original notes of the director. They redo the whole sound. I mean, it's like years and years for one film. So when you say to someone, oh, there's going to be some, restored Paramount classic Westerns being screened, that sounds cool. but you don't realize like the amount of labor and love put into doing that. So that's really exciting too.
You owe them your ass in a seat. Go watch
Yeah,
it. Right?
exactly.
Well, also, I mean, just look out of this out of straight passion for like, God, what if we showed a brand new print of Monty Hellman movies and all this sort of stuff, and then bring in people from the process. It's just so cool that it all comes from like love of these things.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's like half film nerd kind of thing, and half like experiential, like fun Pioneertown kind of bullshit. It's like
Yeah.
that's and it brings it back to the original quote that you used on me there, Paul. It really is like about being really gritty, but also quite sophisticated. We're trying to have a fun, kind of frontier style time, but also, really, really high quality of curation and programming, and kind of bring those two worlds together and see if they don't somehow mesh or fight or something. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be a
You
fun
get to do it in
weekend.
this cool town that you're showing me pictures of. This is like for a festival. Like, what a great immersive experience.
Yeah.
And is your photo accurate here? Do you ever screen on the side of a building?
This year, actually, we're not doing outdoor screenings,
okay.
unfortunately. That has a lot to do with just plain old, a lot of trading we had to do and negotiation with the county to allow us to do a film festival in town, which is a very delicate thing because we want to be very respectful and have a low footprint. But next year, for sure, we're going to work on doing some outdoor screenings, and make that into a kind of new series. But yeah, that'll happen.
Listen, as a guy who started a tour of movie locations throughout Los Angeles, I know the bureaucratic side of things that you're talking about, because I had to get the DBA going, talk to lawyers about the waivers, start the e-filing with the Public Utilities Commission and the Department of Transportation TCP form. I mean, it was so much, and then it's like, then you go, oh, okay, now my dream after a year. So
Yeah, well,
It didn't drive it out of you.
It didn't drive it out of me,
Yeah.
and neither did get driven out of Julian to start this fest.
Yeah. Well, no, you know what it's like then. I mean, it's very much like, you got to separate like the kind of procedural side of things with the kind of like, childish dream side of things. And like, if you get those two things, too intertwined, then you're dead. And if you forget, to focus enough on one or the other, you haven't done your job. But if you find a way to do them both and not forget that the I's have got to be dotted and the T's have got to be crossed, and the dreams also got to be, followed at the same time, then that's where you're at.
That's the great thing about dreams is it's the only thing you have to hold on to while everything else falls apart trying to sabotage you accomplishing it. You're like, if it wasn't for that one thing, like you would just totally give up, but it's a dream. So
it's all you got that you never have.
Right.
Speaking of the sophisticated and the uncivilized, you also have two concerts going on at the Pioneertown Film Festival, and I'll give you a taste of the first band. Well, this isn't in order, but I think on the closing night are Sons of the Pioneers. And if you don't know Sons of the Pioneers music, you've seen Lebowski, right? So
them tumbling down.
Oh yeah.
That little film, yeah. I think that everyone's heard one of their songs one way or another. They might not know it, but to those of us who love, like anything, Western or the history of country music or classic country, I mean, they are just they're gods. I mean,
Wow.
it's hard to describe how big they were back in the 30s and the 40s, but they were like, I don't even know what exists these days in that, like a Lady Gaga or something. I guess I don't know what to compare them to, but they were like the most popular country, and back then country music was pop music pretty much. There was jazz, obviously, but country music was very much a popular music form, and it was they were huge. And these guys obviously aren't the original guys, because the original guys were Roy Rogers, and they're all long gone. But a lot of these guys are the sons of the original guys, and Roy Rogers,
the sons
Jr.,
of the Pioneers,
the grandsons of the Pioneers. Yeah, that's what I call them. But Roy Rogers' son, Dusty Rogers, is the leader of the band now. So Roy Rogers' son's going to be in town playing, and they're going to have great stories in town too. I'm just looking forward to hanging out with them.
Oh God,
because
that's
they all
amazing.
grew up in town. They grew up in Pioneertown. Seeing these movies being shot, and their parents were these huge, Western stars. And these guys haven't been there for a long time. These guys and gals, they haven't been back to town for a while. So it's going to be a really nostalgic time for them. And the cool thing, the thing I really love about the festival is that it's so small and it's so like concentrated that everyone's going to be together, you know. So like the Sons of the Pioneers, Roy Rogers' son Dusty, the filmmakers, Phil Nibelink from Five Goes With, all these people, Robert Kurtzman, they're all going to be hanging out, you know. So
And
so
you
people
brought them all
come to the
together.
festival. Yeah, so people come to the festival. It's not like a bigger festival where someone comes onto a stage and then they're whisked away to their hotel room and they're gone. Like everyone who's coming out is coming for the whole weekend. So, you know, bets are if you go to have a beer after a screening, you know, and you sit down and have your beer, next to you is going to be the guy who made the film, or it's going to be, you know, when it's, I love that a lot. I love that, like,
That's awesome.
bringing together of the audience and the filmmakers. I think that's something that's lost a lot in the bigger festivals.
And my parents passed away in 2018, and I went home to clean out the house, the thing you have to do, which is not pleasant, but you do unearth some things that you didn't know were there, including my parents' trip to, I think, Branson.
No
Oh
way.
my
And
gosh!
they saw the Sons of the Pioneers signed by Dale Warren, who I guess
That's
was the
amazing.
oldest at the time. He was there from 1950s on, and he left the band. I think passed away recently.
Yeah.
And I
So
think
is
of all the
Dusty
guys
in-
my parents
Yeah.
met, only Ken I think is still with the group. Correct?
Yeah, I believe Ken is still with him. And
But-
so Dusty Rogers has taken over as the leader now. That's Roy Rogers Jr. That's Roy's son.
Far out.
So your folks love that, probably.
Yeah. So my parents loved it, and so that's why I picked this up. I was like, oh my god, there's a signed autograph thing. Let me look into who these guys are, and that was a pretty cool little thing to explore.
Oh.
So, but so anyway, on the other end
Not
of
sure
the
if I lost you
spectrum,
guys there.
oh, no worries, you're back. Adam, I haven't told you, but he is legit. He's on a ranch in Pioneertown, so the internet is pure.
Wow. Yeah.
But we'll give the internet a break for a second and play the other band that's performing. And now he's gone.
Oh,
I'll be
no.
back. Well, let me play while he'll jump back in here. He's got the
Right.
thread. But this is the other band that is playing, and it's a 180 from Tumble and Tumbleweeds. Opening night band, the Dandy Warhols. So what brings the Dandy Warhols to?
That's so exciting. Who cares?
So the Dandy Warhol. I mean, this is
Wow.
part of the whole concept for the festival. Is like, again, we didn't want to make it into just like a bunch of old timers sitting around watching classic westerns, and myself, because I'm also that kind of person.
Yeah,
I'll put
Dandy
myself in that
Warhols. You'll get
category.
40-year-olds.
Yeah, but so it's fun. Yeah, so we're like, you know, let's make sure that we have kind of something for everything. You know, like we didn't want to have just one group of people or another group of people. We wanted to kind of really bring together, you know, a lot of the newer people who are coming out, who are a little bit younger, and a lot of the old timers and the people who want to celebrate the history. We want to bring that all together. But everyone's got a connection. You know, like the Dandies, they've played in Pioneertown many times, and they're huge fans of town
That's
and friends
awesome.
of ours. They've played
Awesome.
there a number of times. So when they heard there was a festival, they were like, "Can we please come play? Because we love this place." You know, nothing is flippant or, you know, publicity based. Everything in this festival is like,
Yeah.
we got a reason for it. You know, even if it sounds weird, like the Dandies, they are huge fans of town, and they're here a lot. So
Dandies are great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm just glad they're still around too, to be booked, and you know that's awesome. I didn't know that the Dandy Warhols were still out and doing shows and stuff. That's
well,
awesome.
the Sons of Pioneers still are. They've been around
that's
since the
true.
30s.
That's true. That's true. They had
1933. Yes. All right. Well, last film I want to talk about in your lineup is produced by Jason Momoa, and it is a world premiere of The Last Manhunt.
Yeah, so that's our opening night film on Friday, and it's a really special one for many reasons. You know, first of all, it was shot out here. It was shot in and around Pioneertown and Palm Springs area, with a lot of input from the local tribes, which is really great. The Chemehueve and the Agua Caliente, and a number of other tribes that I'm missing out on. But
the hot water. I
the,
speak a little Spanish.
there you go,
poquito. The hot water.
that's the tribe in the Palm Springs area. And they kind of recreated the old legendary Willy Boy story, which I think most of your audience probably saw the original Willy Boy films.
Of course I have, but refresh my memory.
The last Robert Redford. It's what's it just called? Willy Boy? No,
Willy
I'm
Boy?
questioning my own
Look
history
this
now.
up.
Yeah, it was Robert Redford was in the movie, and it was very much.
Oh, tell them
it was
Willy
kind
Boy
of-
is here.
It was pretty. It was pretty. I think it was kind of panned
Oh yeah,
across
Catherine
the board
Ross.
for the most part. It was a cool film, but it was very much like a traditional sort of Western. Didn't really look at things critically. Obviously, it was made a while ago. But this film kind of goes back to that story. It was a real historical event that took place with this indigenous gentleman whose nickname was Willy Boy. And so what Jason did with his writer Thomas Pa Sibbett, and actually a local film director and actor, Christian Camargo, who's a really great director and actor as well. Those guys got together and decided they wanted to retell the Willy Boy story from a more indigenous perspective. So they got together with a lot of the local tribes. They had their input. They shot on their land. They retold this story, and it's really, in and of itself, it's a fantastic film. It's really a great film, and the history it has connected to the region, the inclusion of the indigenous story in the area and their history, it just makes it such a perfect kind of beginning to the inaugural year of this film festival, because it really hits on a lot of the different themes and the histories and everything else. So a lot of the cast and crew will be out for that. And, we've also been inviting some of the leaders of the local tribes, some of the elders. They're going to come out and give an introduction and talk about the history and the film. So it's going to be a really, really fun night, really cool. And again, this is what we love doing here, is like, it's not just an opening night film like some other film festivals have just because it's got a name or it's good for publicity or whatever. This is really a film that encapsulates the region, and its history and the people who were here and the history of it.
In film history, with the Willy Boy
and film history, yeah. I mean, it's such a great. There's so many layers to this film,
which I'd heard of,
just
and
being a great film.
Did not know the story until just now, and just a search for Willy Boy gives you all kinds of great stories of the real story and everything. I'm fascinated now.
It's really it's a fascinating history.
Western,
and to involve all the local tribes in it was really interesting, I think, for them, because it really gave a much truer perspective on not only the story, but also kind of like the historical context and what it meant and what it means. So to be able to show that film, for the first time as our opening night film, is a very humbling thing, especially for a little first year film festival out here. It's like, this is great. We're able to do this. We're very, very honored.
And you're
great programming.
Further legitimized by association with the Autry Museum, right? Which is part of this.
Yeah,
as well.
Right.
The Autry's partnered with us, and we're doing a special screening for their members actually later this week. And the Autry Museum is fantastic. We've got very similar goals in terms of preserving and re-engaging and rethinking the West and the frontier and its history, whether it's through film or art or stories or music. And they're doing that, and we're trying to do that. And when we got together, we said, "Holy shit! We're talking about the same things. We're trying to do the same thing here, even down to our programming and what we're doing. We're trying to do the same thing." So it was a very easy, very symbiotic partnership. And since then, we've also started working with the Palm Springs Museum of Art to do some special screenings specifically for the local tribes. I mean, shit, we're man. When I talk about it, it's
Busy.
like, this is great. This sounds like a great thing.
What an incredible lineup! I'm so excited about so many things you've talked about here. We got to go, Paul. Right? Obviously, we got to get there.
Well, you can head there on May.
How much is an Uber to the Pioneertown Film Festival?
I took someone to when I worked for Lyft. I took someone to Coachella from Hollywood. It's like $120.
Yeah, I think it's an expensive drive from Los Angeles.
Yeah, them's pre-pandemic rates. So, so anyway, May 27th through 29th, Pioneertown Festival. Get Pioneertown Film Fest. Read all about it. But let me ask you the question, Julian, that we ask everyone who comes on the show: what is your favorite movie of all time?
Nice.
Oh.
Nice.
Jeez.
Bring in the heat. Bring in the heat with the
that's a hard one.
questions.
I'm gonna have to go off track here and go against a west. I'd love to say a western is, but I love a lot of westerns.
We can ask
But I
you
gotta
your
say
favorite
my-
Western, too.
I can do
Yeah.
that
Well,
too.
do your favorite movie, then favorite Western.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite movie of all time is one that everyone should have seen but hasn't. It's by one of my favorite filmmakers, Lina Wertmuller, an Italian female. Who did a film called The Seduction of Mimi, which is, in my mind, one of the best films ever made, with Giancarlo Giannini. An amazing
Frequent collaborator,
film.
right?
Yeah. They made a number of films together. So anyway, that's my favorite film. And if people haven't seen that, I mean, that to me is like, I don't know, it's like a female,
Wow.
it's like a female directed, like Tarantino meets Fellini, meets like at Costa Rica, like just totally strange, beautiful filmmaking. And everyone should have seen that film.
I'm hiding my face in shame. I've not seen it.
That's okay, Paul. I can take over with a little Lena Wertmuller talk. I've seen Swept Away, but that's it.
That movie's great. Yeah.
I've seen Swept Away, but that's it.
Amazing filmmaker. She was
Favorite
actually
Western?
Fellini's
Oh,
assistant for
good.
many years, so that's where she kind of.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Not a bad place to learn filmmaking is. On
No. It's going to rub off. It's going to rub
Yeah.
off. Wow. That's cool. I feel like I've got so many marching orders here. I got to see Seduction of Mimi because the way you just described it there is like a kind of Tarantino meets,
That's great. It's
like
so
a
wild.
Fassbinder or something.
Totally, absolutely, yeah.
I got to see that. And then these Hellman films you just threw out there, I was like, I've only seen like 2 or 3 Monty Hellman
Hellman films are great, and then Heartworn Highways. That should be your list. For, this week.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh my
totally.
gosh.
So what's your
good.
favorite Western?
Man, that's a hard one because I love so many westerns.
Yeah, I don't know if I could pick it, but
I mean, it's hard to, I know it's super, it's a really typical answer, but I mean, just like Once Upon a Time in the West is just such.
That's the one. That's the correct answer.
I think so.
I mean, the problem is that it's the correct answer, though, but it's correct for a reason. I mean, it's such a mind-blowingly beautiful, powerful, multi-layered film. Like,
Mind blowing.
man, it's hard to not say that's my favorite. But
And the thing
geez,
is,
man,
we sit here as movie geeks and go, well, of course, Once Upon a Time in the West. But I remember a time where I didn't know that film existed, even though I love Leone. I love the Leone, Dollars trilogy. And then I was taking in college a American cinema class and an Italian cinema class. And it was the first time that Once Upon a Time in the West was available on VHS. It had just came out. So they did a screening, and they said, if anybody's taking both classes, you only have to go watch the movie once. And I went to go see it, and I was so blown away. Then the next night for my Italian film class, I'm like, I win again. It was the best. Oh, my God. I couldn't believe that there was a Leone film I hadn't seen that was that. Oh, my gosh, yes.
and it's just such a break. It's just just the epic scope of that story is just so amazing. I don't know that the scope, to that degree has ever really been maybe like a Godfather trilogy kind of deal is kind of like that scope, but it's hard. It's a hard thing to nail that kind of scope and in a way that actually, makes the audience leave feeling like they've been changed. And that's a film that does that.
Not a rushed moment. I mean,
No,
the
definitely not a rushed
but it just like, it eats up every moment. It's just, that's,
Well, I
it's
saw
tough.
But I love other films like, just weird little, like, kind of not super well-known films like Big Country and stuff. Just these, classic Westerns that were kind of popular Westerns back in the day. And, like, I really love Westerns that kind of have little subverting elements to them, like there's the fun, beautiful, the great John Wayne films that are just like, straight ahead, like fantastic, well-told stories. Then you get into like, the Wild Bunch and like Big Country, and it's just I just love when there's like, these great told stories and they're just slightly subversive and things that just make you think a little bit and make you kind of do a double take sometimes. And like, sometimes the full-on experimental film is a little hard to digest, and sometimes a full-on kind of populist film is like also a little hard to digest. But when you kind of bring like that like artistry into the mainstream, I think you can find some beauties.
You know what I just caught for the first time is because John Williams does the music for it, is the Cowboys. And I'd never seen the Cowboys. I still, actually, I kind of had to skim through it a little bit. I'm going to watch the whole thing. But man, I wish I'd seen that movie when I was like 10, because first of all, I believe it's the first time that John Wayne is ever killed in a Western. And he's killed by, what's his face? I can't think of it. But he got hate letters for years for killing John Wayne in a Western.
But I can't remember who it was.
I haven't seen
Bruce
that.
Dern. Bruce Dern.
Bruce Dern. That's right. Yeah, I got to rewatch that, man. I haven't seen that.
But so they killed John Wayne. Well, spoiler alert. But then the kids, like he trains all these kids to ride horses and stuff, and it's like very kind of cool, like fatherly, like let's go on an adventure sort of thing for the first hour of it. And then they kill him, and the kids kill everybody that killed John Wayne. Like these kids kill everybody. I wish I'd seen that movie when I was a kid. It was just like seeing these kids like,
I love that,
oh man,
man.
awesome.
I love
so
when
good.
I love when there's just someone who's usually just typecast and they just go like, oh fuck it, and just like kill him. Or
It had to
vice
be the
versa.
biggest shock
Great.
in a theater to see John Wayne get killed.
Yeah, and
It's
I was like, what else is? What am I thinking of here? That was that was like Once Upon a Time in the West did that as well.
Yeah.
That was like, subverting, who everyone normally was. It was.
Henry Fonda, the
Henry
great
Fonda.
hero
Henry
of
Fonda.
Western, as
I
a
think-
villain. Oh my
I
gosh.
think that was maybe I'm wrong, but that was definitely one of the first times that Henry Fonda was like a big time bad guy. I don't know if he'd ever played that kind of thing before. So that was another hugely subversive role.
And one of the
I
greatest
love.
lines in any Western, and I'll let you fill in the line after it. Looks like we're one horse shy. Oh, you brought too many.
Too many. That's so great, man.
And Bronson in the role
That
of
is-
the man with
That
no
is the
name,
best-
harmonica.
That's the best line. The train just reveals. I mean, the whole film is so beautifully done. Everything. Is
Oh,
so,
that train
so
opening,
well
I
thought
was
out. It's like
obsessed.
who would think of just such a simple and beautiful reveal as the train left, and there you are, and you have that scene. It's just like
Oh, God.
everything in it is masterful.
First time I saw it was about 8 or 9 years ago at the Motion Picture Academy, so on the big screen. So there was no better way to be
man.
introduced, and I was just shocked at how urgent and present the movie is. I'm not like
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch some old film and let's see what happens. But I was like, this was like had resonance as if it was made by Tarantino. Who
Yeah, exactly.
who
Like a
obviously
great
hates him a
maestro
bunch,
with
but yeah.
all the
and
love
it's
of
a
every
great.
detail.
I think it's a real exercise in masterful filmmaking. At least for me as a filmmaker, when I watch it, because it takes its time. It really spends time, but it also moves. The story never feels like it's dragging, but it also takes so much time to get places. It's an amazing
does.
exercise in like the cadence of a film.
That's true. It's certainly less kinetic than a Tarantino movie, but that is to be appreciated for sure.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I do have one more question. My girlfriend's going to want to know this. Where's your winery?
Oh,
That was
yes,
many
she
years
will
ago.
want to know that.
Long gone. That's
Oh,
long
is it?
gone.
Okay. She works
The
at
previous
Malibu
life.
Wines, and so
Oh, cool.
she's
I
always.
lived up in. I'm originally from Canada. I grew up in the countryside in Canada, and
Oh, the
I had
Ontario
a jazz
wineries.
bar there, and a crazy, weird underground urban winery, and a lot of different. If I'm passionate about something, I'll take it to the nth degree and just about kill myself doing it. Here I am again.
Well,
But
go
for
and
movies.
see. Go to the Pioneertown Film Festival so our guest doesn't die. There you go.
and just everyone should know too. I hate to be procedural, but there are no tickets at the door or for individual events, so we'd hate to see people arriving at the festival trying to get in. It's only weekend passes available ahead of time on the website, and then we're shutting it down because we want to keep everything nice and calm and not too much footprint. So if anyone wants to go up to the website and get your passes, and you'll literally see me there. So probably with some sort of a beverage in my hand.
That was a question I had. How did the
Tell 'em
tickets
you
work?
sent you.
So, yeah. How do the tickets work? So you have one, but buy a day, and you see everything that day that you can see.
Yeah, and I mean, it's in some ways it's difficult because I know a lot of people have trouble, committing to like a full 3-day thing that's never happened in the middle of nowhere. So you're just saying it sounds crazy, but we didn't, because it's such a small town, and these are all my neighbors and my friends here and everything, and we just don't want to have like scores of people driving in and traffic and getting lost and trying to find out this and that. Like, we wanted to keep it really, really. It's a very small film festival. There are not very many people coming. We're keeping it really small, and everyone who comes is going to know exactly where to go and how to check in and get their badge, and they can go to all the events for the weekend and know where everything is. We just wanted to keep it like as intimate as possible. So you go there for 3 days, you're going to hang out with all the filmmakers, all the musicians. You're going to know everyone by name probably by the end of the weekend. It's going to be like camp for a bunch of like old kids, who love Westerns basically. So.
You're doing God's work. I don't know if that's been said yet.
Let's run through some final comments. Pioneertown is a fun area, said Cam Shaft. So she's been there.
Yes, indeed.
That's true. And Canadian wine, yes, Ontario is loaded with wineries, Garth.
Ontario is.
Explore.
Yeah. Lots of Rieslings and Gewürztraminers, yes.
It's where Dan Aykroyd, among other people, gets his...
Dan Aykroyd has a winery there.
Yeah.
He has his own winery.
And seriously, love Fire Chasers. Watched it twice. Great docuseries, amazing footage. That's the show you worked on with DiCaprio, correct?
Yeah, DiCaprio exec produced that, and I directed it and created it. And that was thank you for the comment. I appreciate that. That I almost killed myself in too. So there's a common theme to all my projects.
It's on Netflix, right? If people want to watch that.
It's a series on Netflix. Yeah, thank you for that comment.
Chasers.
That means a lot. Right. It was a great time. Fun time.
All right. Well, Adam and I are going to talk about whatever's new that's coming out.
Cool.
You're welcome to hang out, or if you got a scoot, I'm sure.
You know what? One earpod died, and the other one's going with it. The device I'm on is about to go.
It's a symbolism. It happens to all of us eventually.
Yes. Once again, Pioneertownfilmfest.com. Learn everything you need to know, and just hang out and talk movies with people for a weekend, which sounds like tons of fun. So, thanks for joining us, Julian.
Really appreciate it, guys. You do a great thing here. Thanks so much.
Nice meeting you. Wonderful fest.
Thank you.
All right.
What program this guy has?
Right?
I mean, so many things like completely near and dear to my heart, like the Monty Hellman thing, the Kurtzman thing. I mean, it just, you and I have been to festivals where you're like, well, that looks interesting. That's not really my style. But like everything this guy's programming, it's.
You know what happens most time when I go to a festival? I go, God, what'd they reject?
Sounds like mine. That's the thing. We went to a comedy festival where ours got rejected, and we're like watching, like, what are we watching?
Yes, yeah, and then you go, oh, good Lord, how did that happen? Well, we got like 10 minutes to talk about what's new.
Well,
wait, I do have a clip from Doctor Strange. If you want.
Oh, good, because that is Paul. They've made a second Doctor Strange movie. They made a Doctor Strange movie at all in my lifetime. That's nuts.
And now, another.
Yeah. Hit it.
All right, here we go.
This modern hospital may seem worlds apart from the days of ancient sorcerers. But for psychiatrist Stephen Strange and his beautiful patient, this is where those worlds collide. And the nightmare begins.
We're here interviewing the founder of the LaFay method, a woman who in the last few days seems to have taken at least a part of New York City by storm, so to speak. Here to tell us more about it is the force behind the LaFay method, Morgan LaFay. Miss LaFay, can you tell us
Hello, Anus Tart.
What it is exactly that the method does?
And she hadn't even seen the license plate.
Right, and that is Jessica Walter, your matriarch of the Blues family.
Play Misty for me.
Crazy.
And using them to get what you really want out of life.
What?
What a tremendous upgrade that'll be.
Nothing
my God,
Stephen
what could that
Strange learned in
possibly
medical
look like?
school could prepare him for an attack by an evil sorceress from the fourth dimension. A villainess who can only be stopped
Four
by
dimensions.
an earthly master of the mystic arts.
Come in. Thank you. You're telling me you're a sorcerer.
Copyright strike proof.
Come and take him into our domain.
Now it's up to Stephen Strange to take the place of the Earth's last sorcerer.
Have I become the sorcerer?
You should learn whose powers to respect.
Come along for a fantastic adventure into the fourth dimension with Doctor Strange.
Be good that it's on Blu-ray, because there they advertise that it's both on VHS and beta.
Yeah, in Dolby Hi-Fi. Yeah, boy, I'll tell you what. This is
cut that down, but for some reason couldn't find the cut down clip, and so that felt really long.
Yeah. Well, you think that's long, you should check out the movie. Then none of that stuff that's exciting that you see there happens in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd be okay with it. I'd allow it.
That's a film version of being rickrolled.
Yeah. Man, I mean, I got to tell you, seeing any superhero live action was such a thrill when I was a kid, which is why I am the man I am today. I'm glad to let us know the patient is beautiful. Good call. Good call.
That guy just basically read a PR. They didn't even get a voiceover artist. He was like, Dr. Stephen Strange is now.
I gotta find that Krusty the Clown clip where he just like reads off all of his catchphrases, because some of those things always feel like that.
Okay, this would be fantastic though. So that would be fun. That I invite. Let Peter Hooten show up an alternate Doctor Strange in an alternate timeline.
You know, no Reb Brown in the Captain America movies. No, what's his face? Even with the multiverse of Spider-Man and the fact that the original Spider-Man is in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they didn't get him in there.
But just look at this. Like, first of all,
wow,
that people are this is like outselling the Batman.
This is insane.
This is not Batman and Superman. This is Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange, and people are super stoked to see this movie.
Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange are in a movie. She's on the poster, and they're not making apologies or dressing her in black to say, sorry, we're making a superhero movie.
That's because they took the time to have a 7-year build-up to full Scarlet Witch. From Wanda Maximoff to now she's full Scarlet Witch. And so you can do everything. Marvel just knows what they're doing.
I can't believe it. And, Paul, we're burying the lead. Sam Raimi, after a 10-year retirement, is returning to make a superhero movie and not be screwed with while he does it, because Marvel's not going to do that. Marvel's like, I mean, what a genius idea, obvious in retrospect, to get Sam Raimi to make a superhero movie. Forget that this is even called Doctor Strange. If you heard that Sam Raimi was making a movie called Multiverse of Madness, opening day, I'm there. That is what a title for a Sam Raimi movie.
Like, I don't think you know that this isn't just like exciting, but it's also a warning. Get off social for the next 3 days.
Oh, I ain't doing it.
Yeah,
I ain't doing it. See, and I live right around the corner now. I could go to the premiere, but I'm here in Vegas instead, eating craft service.
Yes, but you got the loudest food possible for when we had a guest.
I hit mute.
Didn't do Slim Jim. I know. After the first crinkle, I saw you working the mute button. So
I saw you laughing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you found the mute button. Quality.
Yeah,
That's true.
All right, so that's that, and news.
Should we share the real trailer?
Well, again, I think I brought this up before, that it's one of the first Marvel trailers I've seen that promotes the director. I know you never see it.
You're right.
From Peyton Reed, from Scott Derrickson, you just never see it.
Oh, you're right.
Sam Raimi, like this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I can't wait.
Tomorrow night, reach into the unknown with Doctor Strange.
Do you believe in evil, Doctor? You're telling me you're a sorcerer.
Don't defy me, Stephen, or I'll take my pleasure from you in another way.
John Mills is the power of good. Jessica Walter is the power of evil. And mankind's fate hangs in the balance. Peter Hooten stars in Doctor Strange. Tomorrow night at 8, 7 Central and Mountain Time.
Was Peter Hooten a big deal? I never have heard that name ever, except for this. And they're
I thought for a second they said Peter Horton. It would have been, from Children of the Corn and 30-something. But no.
Oh, right. No, Peter Hooten. Peter Hooten. And it's interesting because it's such a funny, like, 70s thing of like, okay, we're making Doctor Strange. Now we got to filter this comic book, this acid-soaked comic book from the 60s. And then we've got to deliver that to people that just watch ABC on Sunday night or Saturday night. What do? He's a doctor. Let's put him in a children's hospital type situation, or a whatever general hospital type situation. You know, so it's like General Hospital for an hour because they're like, we gotta sell it to the gray hairs. You know.
Yeah. Oh my God, can't wait. Marvel just does it all right. Now,
it's so exciting.
Speaking of anticipated movies, National Association of Theater Owners chief, in a press session with CinemaCon Media, just said that James Cameron's sequel to Avatar will have more versions than any other movie in history. IMAX, 3D, PLF, I don't even know what that is, high res, high frames per second rate, which is a bad idea. Variable
Probably
sound
not for that, though.
160 languages, etc. I'm telling you, it just called out the high frame rate. Just called out the effects in the Hobbit series. It just said, "Look, this is fake." So you can tell now because we changed the frame rate on you. Like, no, that's no good. So I'll probably just go see IMAX 3D. I mean, that will be insane. But it's just, of course, he's already got,
He's inventing formats, this James Cameron.
Yeah, I probably don't know what PLF is because he invented it.
Yeah. James Cameron can't just make a movie. He has got to reinvent the medium every time. It's insane. It's amazing.
So 7 months out, we're talking about it already.
Wow.
But they announced the titles, and they announced all sorts of stuff when they had Disney present at CinemaCon with their upcoming slate.
Oh, wow.
Which includes Doctor Strange, the Bob Burgers movie. Those are both for May. Lightyear later in the summer, and then Thor: Love and Thunder is our next Marvel. What a Marvel year, because you got Doctor Strange and Thor: Love and Thunder, and then Wakanda Forever. Then going into next year, you've got Quantumania. And
Quantumania, what a title.
Which just switched, that's Ant-Man and the Wasp. They just switched times. So I think Quantumania is going to be in February now, and the Marvels will be in the summer, based on how quickly they're being created.
Well, Quantumania, you can do whatever you want with time, I guess, when you're in control of the quantum universe.
Yeah. And some of these, I don't know what they are. The Menu, the Banshees of...
The Menu, what's his superpower?
Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I forgot that's next year. That must be the what's coming at the end of the year. Of course, Indiana Jones 5 in July. We hope to have our podcast done by then.
Yeah.
And then Strange World, I've heard about that under development for a while now as well. So
Strange World.
And Banshees. That's Del Toro's take on it to try and improve on the Eddie Murphy one.
War of Water. There's going to be a lot of water in this Avatar movie.
The Way of Water. The Way of Water?
The Way of Water? Oh, I thought it was the War of Water.
The Way of Water? The Way of Water.
Oh, the Way of Water.
The Waterway.
The Waterway. He's just challenging. He's I'm going to, you know what, you guys think this is going to be a failure just like you think all my movies are going to be a failure? I'm going to basically name it Waterworld.
Right. The balls. And then I should play a little something else because there was a trailer for a new David Cronenberg movie coming out. And if you didn't know it was Cronenberg when you sat down to watch it, this should prove it to you.
It is time to stop seeing. It is time to start speaking. It is time to listen. Listen.
Yep.
Creepy.
Yep, that's a Cronenberg movie. Yeah. But he hasn't gone full Cronenberg in a long time. You know, he was doing these sort of he's been doing all kinds of stuff, but that's a full Cronenberg type movie.
Yeah, would they call it a body image movie or body
horror
Crash or something?
Body horror. Yeah. Yeah, I guess he defined. I never heard that term until. That's him, officer. I'd never heard that term until. So I think he basically invented that term of like body horror, because otherwise it was just like horror movies where people got aliens stuck in their throats or whatever. You know, you can call it a body horror movie. You know, but he. Doctor Strange, Paul. Doctor Strange. Let's watch the real trailer. Let's watch the real trailer here.
Every night, I dream the same dream. And then... the nightmare begins. I did what I had to do to protect our world.
You cannot control everything, Strange.
From Sam Raimi.
Way between universes, and we don't know who or what will walk through it.
Wanda, what do you know about the multiverse?
Viz had his theories. He believed it was dangerous.
We're gonna get the boot.
Yeah, that'll be the copyright strike one. So back to the. I'm kidding. Wow, superhero movies have come a long way. I mean, for Marvel.
Yeah, just have some gratitude, everybody. Don't you think it's okay? Did you see what you could have had? Gratitude, people.
Yeah, they're so good at making these movies. God, they're just rolling out the whole universe. They still keep rolling it out. I'm still getting over seeing Iron Man for real. You know? Yeah, baby. Well, that's very exciting.
Well, that's enough show.
But, I think I should get back to work.
Julian was great. Julian Pinder.
Yeah.
The Pioneertown Film Festival. Go check it out if you like movies. Just if you like movies.
Only if you like movies.
Yeah. There's Bill Murray spoke after his allegations. There's Star Wars Celebration panel announcements. There's just too much. There's too much. We'll have to talk about it next week.
Yeah. Well, we promise we won't have a guest so we can talk about it.
No, actually, I'm lining one up. But
are you?
If someone says, "Would you like to talk to the composer of Killer Clowns from Outer Space?" You say yes.
You
so
say
that
yes.
might happen.
You say yes.
But
that's awesome.
We'll see what his availability is. But
well, that's cool because I'm still going to be here, and I might have to, show up late or what have you. So that's nice that I had a guest
and
in my absence.
Thanks to Steve Schultz, who had another fun idea for the top of the show, and it submits jokes every week for our nonsense, and we appreciate that. And check us out on the Movie Trivia Schmodown at the Movie Guys everywhere we go. And I showed this at the top. This was a nice still from the free for all. That makes you feel good.
Oh. Yes, congratulations, Paul.
Yeah,
I haven't had a chance to tweet, but I just wanted to tweet. How about that, Paul Preston? I mean, that was something.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was walking around the crowd the entire day, Paul, saying that you were going to win. And I kept saying to everybody, I was like, well, when Paul wins this thing or whatever, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, very supportive of it. I said it all day long. I was walking around, and then it gets down to you two, and I'm like, did I prophesize it? Yeah,
no.
Almost.
I lost.
But look who you were beat by.
Yeah,
am I upset about being beat by Thomas Harper? No.
Well, I'd like to play her in come on. I'd like to play her in an Iron Man match and see how many.
Yeah.
She only came in for 8 questions or something like that.
Hey, I think we need to have you two play a match. Huh?
I welcome it.
Let's do it. You haven't done your singles yet this season, so yeah.
MTHEMVP. And you know what?
Kieran Lagerbiero to you.
Kieran Lagerbiero to all of you. In fact, let's not even play our outro music. Let's just play The Wonderful World of Harrison Ford.
All right.
And hopefully we'll have another episode of the Ford Fiesta for you very soon.
Very soon.
Thank you, Adam. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Here, look.
Try that, Doctor Strange.
Bye.
こんばんは。
あれ？
知ってんの？Kirin Lagerbiero kudasai.
Beautiful.
No. Kirin Lagerbiero kudasai.
はい。
Kirin Lagerbiero.
ミスタービール。キリンラガービール。
Everybody drinks Kirin Lagerbiero.
Hijo, corazón-san, Hido-san. Hijo, Harusawa, Hido-san.
どこ行っちゃったんだ、ハリソン。
はい、キリンラガー来たよ。
パチパチパチ。
この味がビール。切れ味、醍醐味、キリンラガービール。